Good evening, traders. And so my name is Adam Harris, and I am recording this for the week commencing Monday, the 6th of February, 2023. Don't forget, Valentine's Day is heading up, just so you're aware of it, and it isn't a complete surprise to you when it finally does come around the corner. So let's have a look at this week's news. Now, I should say the last week was one of the most intense ones that I've seen in a while. We survived it. Actually, everything was fine, according to expectations, I think, in terms of technical responses, in terms of technical analysis. So this coming week, what I would expect, there's not much news on Monday. I noticed early Tuesday morning we've got some RBA rate statements, so we'll see if there's some spikes on the Aussie dollar. It's been quite strong lately, and I'm curious to see if there's a bit of a correction, if that triggers a little bit further on that, but overall, not expecting too many negative surprises. For the rest of the week, not so bad. On Thursday and Friday, we've got a bit of UK news. We've got monetary policy report hearings and a GDP. So that's where I would expect some big increase of volatility on those. And otherwise, not expecting much more than that. It should be a relatively quiet week, at least from a scheduled news perspective. So now taking a look at the charts, one of the things that I'm reintroducing, if you've been following me for a while, you'll remember that I included the VIX. I'm reintroducing that at the moment for the following reasons. All right, so if we have a look at this, this follows the, measures the volatility in the S&P. And so one of the things that I want to just highlight here is if we look on the monthly, we go back, here's the global financial crisis. We can see that there was a big spike if we use 40 years as a measurement of that. And in fact, we've had a couple of periods where we've sort of gone back into that area. And the last time that we were sort of there would be around about COVID quarantine, that first outbreak, global outbreak, and there was obviously a market reaction to that. We could see there was a spike above that. But since then, we've just sort of hit up towards that area, including the whole of 2023. So as crazy as the last couple of years have been, we really haven't broken much beyond that. So here's the thing, and we're heading a little bit lower. So currently what this is telling me is that the markets overall right now are not freaked out. They're relatively calm. And what I've decided to do is set some alerts at 30 and 40 and really only start to pay attention to it when it spikes up above those. I think that anything below 30 to me would not really qualify as a major thing. So if we are going to have another leg down in the markets, if we're going to have a more serious recession that's going to kick off at some point later in the year, if the craziness isn't anywhere but finished, then I would expect this to start to break up above 25, 30 and higher. And so I'm going to, measure this area is going to qualify as kind of DEFCON, as a higher DEFCON. Okay, so we're just going to kind of put it in there. I've got alerts that will trigger it, and so every week we'll just kind of see how it's doing. But if it isn't anywhere really into that area, then I'm not going to stress about it too much. Okay, and I think neither should you. So let's move on. Having a look at the dollar index, we've been overdue for a correction to the upside. We've come all the way down. We never tapped 100, so I do want to mention that, but we could see that we're having a big correction here. It's had a big move down, very overextended to the downside. You can see the monthly happening here as well. Nice little reaction off that 20-period moving average. If we sort of line it up here, we can see that it does tap the highs over here at this point in 2016. So it's a technical reaction. It looks as though it's going to be relatively bullish at this point in time. We're only at the start of February, so we're going to have to see how that ultimately goes. Here's what's the most reasonable, is to see it hit its way up to 103, potentially 104, I think is very reasonable. It could even comfortably go as high as 105. And then we're going to have to see what happens with it, because what we want to do is we want to see if there's going to be a change in trend, or if it's going to go sideways, or if it's going to just have a good correction and then continue down. At this point in time, it's actually very difficult to predict. For example, we could see that if the dollar is going to continue to strengthen, we could see that we have a move up, a pullback, and it goes back up to that. That is one possibility, but it's just too soon to predict which of those outcomes it's going to be. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that for now and monitor it as it unfolds. However, what I do expect for this coming week is to see it continue to strengthen and work its way up. Okay, I don't think it's over yet, and what I am really interested is to see how it finishes, because it would be interesting to see if it heads up, hits that, and then has a strong reaction against that. So again, I'm just there's no way I'm going to commit to what I expect the longer term trend for the dollar to be at this point in time. I think it would be dangerous to do that. Yes, it is a possibility it could continue all the way up, and we could have another leg ahead of us. That is a possibility, but I'm not going to commit to that yet. I'm considering that. Okay, so let's move across. Let's have a look at euro dollar. Euro dollar was very much overdue for that. You can see for the last couple of weeks it's not been doing anything really, and had an attempted move higher, and we've had a stronger reaction. So look at that bearish rejection candle at a major level, and therefore the reaction I think this week most sensible place is for those to head down towards 107, potentially a little bit further, even as far down as 105. You can see what's interesting about this, that if we look at it from a monthly perspective, is that we knew that after it was overextended, at least, and this is in previous recordings, we knew this was a minimum, a bare minimum. We expected price to get that, and that this was also a potential 109, was also a potential if it continued from there. So this is really where we are now. Are we going to see a continuation or return in a new downtrend? Is that a possibility? It is a possibility, but I'm not going to commit to my degree of certainty over that just yet. So for now, I expect this to continue down, back down towards these old lows here, around about the 104 level. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be looking for this week, is looking, well, of course, for the possibility it could hit this major level and bounce off that, but I think there's some good room for this to continue to head lower. I can remove this now because we've broken through that. We can continue to move on. Let's look at sterling. Sterling also kind of a really nice double top here with bearish divergence. Not so obvious on the weekly. The weekly is actually nice and bullish and trending upwards, which means that the weekly technically is not really expecting to break below this low. It's looking to either find support at 1.1986 or down towards 1.2 and potentially as far as 1.18. So that's interesting to me, whereas I would be expecting this to potentially continue low. So for this week, I'll be looking for moves down to 1.2, possibly a little bit further down towards 1.18. Excuse me, Aussie dollar also been very strong lately, and we'll see how it goes on Tuesday with that. But I would expect it to head down this week towards 68.37, and Kiwi, I'm looking for that to go down to these previous lows. So there should ideally be some good shorting opportunities. That means dollar yen now producing a higher low. We knew that this was coming. We've had that nice bullish divergence, trending higher. We finally got that. We've got a nice series of bullish candles here. We've got 135 in our sights. Okay, look at it from a monthly perspective. That's going to be interesting as well. So similar thing, dollar yen, dollar index. Okay, a quick pause here. So this is something very cool, which I'm going to do going forwards. I'll introduce this from next week, is to have a look at the calculated instruments. So what I've done here, which is very cool, is I have created my own indexes. Okay, so I can actually do that here. It's one of the most people wouldn't appreciate how useful this feature is, but I can create my own index. So I could create an index which would track my portfolio. If I have a portfolio of stocks, I can create a single index from that, even if it's from different exchanges. And actually what I've managed to do here is to create a couple of these. So if I just sort of move it off to the right here and have a look at the first one. So the first one here would be my creation of the dollar index, which I've just created there. So I've actually created my own one, which gives me real-time data. Then I've created, excuse me, this one. Let's just have a look at the instruments here, go through and weather those, which is edit the formula. And so here you could see I am looking at, these are all against the dollar index. Let's see what the next one is. What's this over here? Edit formula. So then this is all the yen pairs. So here I can get an idea of the performance here of the yen against all the yen pairs. How are they doing in general? And here's another one, for example, with this formula. This is looking at, it's still under construction, but here I'm going to be looking at the majors. So the beauty of this is I'm going to be building a whole lot of indices. I'll therefore be able to go, okay, the euro pairs are looking nice and strong, or the Aussie pairs are looking nice and strong. And it's a very nice way for me to do that. I'll also be able to bunch together a whole lot of other stuff. So I'm going to spend some time this week and really build up a series of these, which I'll then potentially include in my weekly analysis. All right, just wanted to tell you about that. I think it's a really cool feature. Okay, so let's have a look at the rest here. Dollar Swissie obviously going to be climbing a little bit higher. Dollar CAD having pulled back. So if you recall last year, it wasn't really going anywhere. Then it had a breakout. We had some good strong moves. Now we've had a bit of a pullback into a major level, and it could potentially find support, and then we could see it continue to climb up. So one of the things that I could be looking for this week, which would make a lot of sense, is just to see if we can kind of break through this bearish line. And so I'm just going to just tweak it. I just need it to be a very little gentle line there. It's just an indication. Once we start to break through that, the momentum shifts from bearish to neutral to more bullish. Okay, that's really what that's about. The ruble, let's get a bit of perspective here. Starting to see a little bit of life. However, if none of the policies change of the of the NATO, let's call it NATO allies, then my expectation is that that Russian economy is going to crumble, and therefore we'll see if this just stays where it is until we start seeing activity in it. I don't expect much from that. Looking here at Euro Swissy, we can see generally it has pulled back up into the moving averages. It is battling in this area. We've got parity, so it's still hovering around parity. In case you're wondering what its behavior is, it's still trying to trend higher, but it is starting to stall now. So the trend that was in place here and looking good is now starting to change. It's not whatever, because remember that markets move, they form trends, they form ranges, they are birthed, they grow, they mature, they get old, they die, and they're birthed again. So what's happening now is whatever the move, the lifespan and the phase of what it was going through is now starting to change. Okay, it was very nice and bullish here, it's not as bullish anymore, so we'll see what happens with that. Gold, all right, been talking about it for a while. I know that I've been chewing your ear off about it. It's been overextended, very much due for a correction. We need this. I would really like this to head down at least to 1800. That makes a lot of sense. This is a very sensible level for it to head back down to. But could it go a little bit further? Absolutely. It could go as far as, and we'll just put this in, it could obviously come back down towards 1730. But 1800 makes a lot of sense. So anywhere in this area, looking really good. And then what I'll be doing, and this will carry on over the next couple of weeks, is looking for this to sort of change direction. Okay, so looking shorting opportunities as well. Would be really nice to see kind of silver pull back into this little area here, some really nice pullbacks into it, and looking for trend continuations to the downside. This looks really heavily bearish. Look at that bearish engulfing that is covering, including something like the previous 8 or 9 weeks. Okay, so very bearish. This should have that potential head down back down towards the $20 mark. Makes sense. Copper, same thing again. Nice, really nice uptrend overall, a lot healthier. For me, this looks more likely. And by the way, the market, although the market can be incredibly geometric, it doesn't always have to be. So this makes sense for it to pull back into this level, but it doesn't guarantee it could pull back into the previous level. Natural gas. So moving on to these, you can just see how that continues to slip lower and lower and lower. You can see the clear bullish divergence here. It is running out of steam. However, we'll have to just see when that is. This is a very dramatic move to the downside there. Very dramatic. And there are various reasons for that. Let's move on to crude oils. So crude oils, in principle, as I said, I was bullish. What I want to do here again is also mark this, just identify this kind of bullish channel that it's in, which, from a longer term perspective could ultimately turn out to be a pennant, which would cause oil to drop. I'm surprised at this point that it's already breached that. So this is what I want to see this week, see if it could find some support at this level. If it continues lower, then all it really is a consolidation before heading lower. But it is currently in a sideways range. So I want to see if it finds some support this week and manages to recover back from that, but it may not. Okay, that's interesting to me. There we go. Why is this not responding? This should be 75 units. What's going on here? Okay, all right. Brent crude. Same thing again. It is back down at a support level. It's back down at $80, and we'll have to see what is going on here with my day. Oh, you know why? Sorry, this is it. Scale type. Linear. There we go. Everything's nice and it's all good. Okay, wheat. So again, I'm looking to see if it finds support, but it may continue to head lower. I was bullish on it, but it is starting to continue. Just not looking as strong anymore. So I spoke about wheat because I like the fact that there was a little bit of a triple bottom, a lot of bullish price action here, a lot of bullish momentum, and therefore I'm looking for this to change direction, where here it appears to be having found a double bottom, back up on top of that, producing a break and a retest of support. So, and at the same time, it's stuck between a level of support, which is down here, and it's squeezed in between this level of resistance. So this week, what I would like to see is a breakout up towards 800. And we'll see if that's going to happen, if it can get through this level. But that's where it wants to go. The question is, can it succeed? Coffee. All right, coffee had a bumper January. Doesn't necessarily mean it's turned around just yet. It needs to find some support at this 174 area. So this is what I'm looking for. Can we get a little bit of support in this area? Let's bring it up. Let's do that. And can we get a bit of support here and find an opportunity from here back up? Let's see if that's going to be the case. Sugar, also very much the same thing to me. Nice little bull channel over here. Looking nice and bullish. Again, I'd like to see if we can get nice little opportunity for this to continue to the upside from this area. Let's see how that goes. We've got cotton. Cotton is within that nice little bullish pattern. So far, it's looking good. There's really nothing about this that is concerning me at this point in time. I'm just going to mark this because I want to see it kind of, if it could potentially break through that trend line to the upside or the top of that channel. That looks really nice and bullish. And this looks really nice and bullish. So all of this looking good. I'm very happy with this so far. That is what I'm looking for. Will it happen this week? We're going to have to see. Moving on to the global indices. Okay. So, there we go. What was I going to say? we had a bullish candle the week before. We haven't really gone anywhere here. There's a definite level of resistance. So for now, I'm going to treat this as sort of range bound at this point in time. Could we find ourselves heading down to the bottom here? Yes, we could. However, if we maintain sort of above these lows and it becomes bullish, and especially if it starts to look as though it wants to break above these levels, then I'm going to resume looking for buying opportunities. Here, again, I'm looking for pullbacks into this area for trend continuations to the upside there. I'm very happy with that. Nasdaq, exactly the same thing. I mean, this to me is a no-brainer. Really nice level of resistance, could potentially find some support, and then looking for buying opportunities to the upside. Let's see if we do that. For the most part, everything does look good. Mini Russell, it's going to be the same thing as well. So for me, this is sort of a bit of a waiting game, waiting for this. That means the whole of this week it could just come down, and then next week it could work its way up. Let's just see if that's going to be the case, or if it's going to fall down fast and finish higher by the end of the week. The FTSE. Okay, so here a little bit of a concern. We have a double top. We've got bearish divergence. This looks really good to me. However, I was initially expecting this to come back and test this level. That's really what I would have liked to see, for it to come back and test that area. And oopsie, let's not do that. That's not what I wanted to see. Just go, yeah, and that's what I was looking for. So that could be something that happens. It is overall looking really nice and bullish. And I should, for the record, say that the FTSE is looking the most bullish I think I've ever seen it, and I'm optimistic. It is doing well. There's very little signs of weakness, and it looks really good. It seems very keen to continue. A little bit of bearish divergence there, but this is looking very nice and bullish. The weekly looks great, but the daily looks like it's got a bit of a stall. So there could be something that if it does stall, we could see it head back down to this level, where for me, I would then be looking for signs of support. Okay, the DAX as well, also looking really good. Really nice weekly chart looking good. This should have 16,000 in its sights. It's very close by. Everything about this looks healthy. There's no signs of weakness here. So I'd like to see that. Again, we've got that bearish divergence here on the daily, but in price action, looks really good. So I want to see if we can continue to do that. I am prepared that if we're going to get a super strong dollar this week, we could see a lot of these markets take a hit in the same way we did in 2023. But I must also emphasize that they're not the same now. They're kind of doing, oil's doing one thing, gold's doing another, and then equities are looking nice and bullish. Cryptos are sort of doing a bit of something here. Currencies are doing their own thing. Whereas for most of 2023, if the dollar moved, everything moved proportionately. That isn't the case at the moment, and that's a sign, to my mind at least, of a healthy market. So again, we are at the Australian ASX. It's almost at those highs. Look at that. Almost at those highs. Looks very nice and healthy. A little bit of kind of exhaustion in here, but it managed to push through to that. So that might want to continue up, but I'm also looking for pullbacks and continuations to the upside there. The Nikkei still kind of within this range, and I don't think it's out of danger just yet. I really need to see this continue to push higher. So let's see if that's going to be the case this week. Okay, on to equities. I'm going to do my darndest to push through them as fast as I can. I don't want to keep you guys here for too long. I do like to keep these at 25, 30 minutes max. So this is, very nice and bullish, nice solid bullish candle there, but it's right at a major level of resistance. So this week, if we can break and close above that, that would be incredible. Otherwise, again, I expect this to pull back and then looking for bullish candles for continuation to the upside. Amazon's already back down here. So for me, this will be a case of looking for any of those bullish setups. If that's going to be the case, then I'll be looking for those. AT&T, similar approach. Look at this kind of data spike there as well. It's battling with that top level. If a couple of these where I am concerned about that, I'm just going to leave those for now. I'll let them kind of break out on their own. But I would mention again, even here, it's battling in this area. There's a lot going on here. You can see it's sort of really struggling there, but it's pulled back and produced a bullish candle. So if it breaks the high, it's going to take another run at it. It's almost, from a monthly perspective, it actually looks pretty good. It looks as though it's just kind of just normal, just a continuation to the upside. But yeah, finding that a little bit on the tricky side. Does appear to me that we've got a series of sort of bullish candles over here, and therefore it might try and push up from here. That's going to be interesting to watch. Tesco, battling here for sure. You can see the weekly for sure battling. Here I would expect this to break down and come back down towards these lows here. So expect it to hit 237. Let's see. American Express, whoosh, look at that, boom. Very, very bullish, looking relatively good. It does, at some point it's going to have to come back down, potentially maybe even close this gap, but right now it seems like it doesn't quite want to do that. But any pullbacks down to this area, especially if it closes that gap, I would be looking for nice bullish setups. But again, that could be something that doesn't happen this week, but happens, week after next. So that would be, I'll just mark it here as well. So this is where I'll go through and just kind of mark this area. That's kind of what I want to see. But when it's going to happen is going to be tricky to tell. I'll know more, obviously, by the end of the week. Berkshire Hathaway battling a little bit here. Overall, Berkshire Hathaway would be expected to be strong, but you can see it's really battling out a lot of indecision candles. Doesn't really know which way to go. So it'll probably see a nice bullish breakout to the upside or the downside. So why do I say that? Well, I mean, there's other analysts and traders that I respect who are pretty confident that we're going to see a lot of sideways behavior this year. That 2023 is going to be. Was I saying 2023 earlier when I meant to say 2022? Yeah, I'm sorry. It just merges. It just blurs together. So it's 2023. When I was referring to 2023 earlier, I meant last year, 2022. Okay. Apologies for that. So yeah, here there is an expectation that we're going to get sideways motion in the markets, and therefore this could turn out to be a real problem. Are we going to see a strong level of resistance in this area? Is this going to be problematic? That is something that I have to keep in mind. So let's just see how that goes. Okay, but yeah, if we could break through that, that would be great. Coca-Cola. No doubt Coca-Cola is contributing to Berkshire Hathaway's problems there. You can see it's a bit more range bound here. Ping pongs around. A lot of buyers in this area pushing up, buyers pushing there, but just not enough to keep it going. And a lot of indecision here. So I am prepared for that possibility. We could see these push a little bit lower because they should be doing better than that. We could see here, same kind of thing. A lot of like attempt to break out and then a failure. So we've had some nice bullish candles here. Then we had, they came back down. We had sort of nice little twin wicks over there pushed up, but then another bullish setup which then failed. So there's clearly a struggle going on at this time. Exxon as well, also very much a bit of a struggle happening there as well. So it means to me that I would expect some sort of a bit more volatility. And when I say volatility, I mean unexpected swings to the upside. For the most part, a lot of these markets are really nice and bullish. And then you've got a couple of odd ones in between. But one way that can resolve itself is that the bullish ones keep going, and then the ones that are a little bit kind of on the fence catch up. So again, here you can see we're breaking through on General Motors. We have got a possible little band. Let's just kind of mark this as amber, where we could be battling with. So let's see how this is ultimately going to turn up. But for the most part, again, like I said, the pulse of everything looks nice and bullish. Is this going to be something significant? Are we going to see a nice little push through from there, or is it going to fail at that time? Just notice here, uptrend here, price pulls back, bullish candle and a break of a high. So technically, traditionally, that is a continuation. It is this nice little consolidation or breakout to the upside, also looking good here. Where's the next major level for this? Let's mark it in. We've kind of broken through the first one. So we've got one little level here. Let's mark that. There's one. There's the next one. And then the one prior to that would be this little one over here, which is where we've just kind of battled through. So those are our kind of next major levels. And if you look at it here, yeah, there could be something in this area. So we'll see if it tries to push through and then hits its head on the ceiling. Meta, massive thing, immediately exhaustion. So we've got the opposite here. We've got two sort of twin exhaustion. This usually would hint at that this week I would see a bit of a correction to the downside, but very nice and bullish over this. It's up at a major level of potential resistance. So what would serve this well would be to see a nice little bit of a pullback into this area, and then a continuation to the upside would be great anywhere in that area. Morgan Stanley, same thing again. You can see it's bumping its head up against 100, nice round number, all-time highs, or at least when I say all-time highs, I mean it's certainly in the last 5-10 years. So recent highs, I guess, recent all-time highs. What am I saying? Yeah. And then let's keep going. So I want to see if that can happen in video as well. Pullbacks and continuations. It's done really well. It is a bit of a level where it's at this one here for 209. But it's doing pretty well. I mean, it's moved. That sentiment has gone from bearish to sideways. Look at this inverted head and shoulders. Okay, so it's an upside down head and shoulders. So if we just kind of draw that line, that neckline, which is to there, and then we measure it. So we use a little bit one of these to kind of measure from the head to the neckline. Call it that. We would then usually get something similar to that from the breakout. That's kind of it. So we could expect this to head up to these highs, which matches up. So let's see if that's going to be the case, which means pullbacks and then looking for little pullbacks and continuations to the upside on the daily. Okay, cool. I'm very tired, by the way, if you're wondering why I'm mumbling and making mistakes, and you're thinking, well, maybe he's had a couple of drinks. I haven't, but I am very tired. So it's the same kind of thing. So look at this, a little bit of bearish divergence, bit of a rejection here. So an attempt to break through that level, which has failed. We've had a good move up. This is a major level. Look at that. You can see that history over there. That's where we are now. So yeah, we could see a move down, but overall, this is still quite bullish. Like, in other words, if it took another run at it, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, there's a strong reaction at that level for this reason. A lot of sellers would have taken a shot at that point. So let's see if it can get to the other side of that. It's going to go higher and higher. PayPal battling a little bit here as well, sideways, trying to move higher, gapped up, stalled a bit. So again, I would expect this probably to do some moves lower this week, and then probably to try and move up a little bit higher. So let's see if that's going to be the case. Then I have a question mark here somewhere. Yeah, so let's see if that's going to be the case there. Spotify Technology, same thing. Look, I'm very keen to see if I can get something like that in that move there. Easy, I suppose, for me. Listen, if you, serious question, if you like the drawings that I'm doing now to go to illustrate what I'm looking for, and you want me to include that, tell me below, please, so I know. Okay, just like give me some feedback on that. Same thing again here, looking for this to pull into this area. This could ultimately end up finding itself a little bit of support in that area, and could do that. So obviously my expectation here is that these would continue onwards. So the assumption is kind of an innocent till proven guilty thing. The assumption here is that the market is bullish, and therefore I'm allowed to do it. Therefore, if it contradicts that and just falls through those things, that in itself tells me where it's likely to go next. But all you can ever do as a trader is to expect it to do that. So that was a previous move up. This was actually a relatively like bullish week. Look at that big move. It's breached that sort of general bearish trend line. It's looking more bullish than bearish. Okay, so this goes well. This bodes well for FedEx, I beg your pardon. I promise you I'm not drunk. Tesla. Oh, I just saw Avatar, Way of the Water. Don't know if anyone's keen on seeing it. If you enjoyed the first movie, the second one is definitely worth seeing. And if you can see it in as big a screen as possible. Yeah, I went and saw it. So that was a long day. That's why I'm so tired. Brain is fried. Okay, so we've seen a big move up here into this area. I am going to, for now, I'm going to remove these barriers because they were there to highlight where its greatest technical challenges were. You can see a breakthrough and a pullback, and it's bumping its head up against us now. So we can kind of see where that is. And that's it. So again, yeah, I would want to see any chart that has a similar behavior here. I want to see if we get a pullback and a continuation on that one. Vanguard, same thing again. Look at it starting to pull back and a continuation. I'll just do that same thing again. That's what we're looking for this week. So this week, if you look at how many of these charts hint at the fact that this week should actually move down. We don't know if it's going to keep going from there, but certainly Monday, Tuesday, is it going to be a shock? Is the market going to drop heavily, or is it just going to keep steadily ticking down? Let's see. Bonds. Okay, let's move on. They are battling. Okay, there's no doubt about it. Here's the 10-year T-note, battling with resistance over here as well on the weekly. Interesting. Still looks somewhat bullish on the indicators, but we'll leave it at that. And then here on the daily, it just battling with that level. So it's giving mixed signals. It's battling on this area. And so I'll sort of just mark that as our sort of band. Shouldn't be that one. It should be this one. So I have different colors for degrees of. Orange band is just generally range bound. Okay, Eurobunt, same thing, same problem. Look at that. When you see it on the weekly, it really is struggling with that level. And cryptos. So if equities are going to take a hit, cryptos are going to take a hit. If tech stocks are going to take a hit, cryptos are going to take a hit. So you can see where they are. There's no reason they're major numbers here. So where do I expect it? And I've been talking, by the way, about it being overextended and coming back down. So where would I like to see it come back down to? I wouldn't panic if Bitcoin came down to 20,000. I wouldn't. If it did, it does. I'm not going to go and screech about it. It's not a ridiculous amount for it to pull back. Be a 50 foot pullback. So it could do that. It could pull back a little bit less, not as far, but yeah, 20,000 is a fair kind of possible one there. All right, let's look. And that means Ethereum back down 1,400, back in even as far as these old highs. It might seem scary. So could this week turn out to be like a bit of a shock to the system? We've been really bullish lately, and we see quite a deep correction. It could. It doesn't mean the game's over. We'd have to see how price behaves after the big drop. Okay, there could be a lot of bears still in the markets that are still expecting the sky to fall, and they will step back in. And so there could be a surge to the downside. Then it could find a bit of a support again, and then it could recover. I'm going to deal with that when it happens. Solana, yep, could even come back down to these old highs here. But if it doesn't, anywhere above that to me is a sign of strength, not weakness. Cardano, look at these kind of continued uptrends here, but stalling a bit. Yeah, this needs to potentially head down into, as I said, into levels of support. Anything where we end up with a really nice bullish signal this coming week to me would be possibly worth considering, would be significant. Significant. Yeah, look at this. The trend to the upside, relatively healthy for now. Okay, that's it, ladies and gents. So I think the charts are expressing clearly that the correction that I've been waiting on for about 3 weeks now looks like it's going to kick off. The markets have been overly bullish prior to that, and therefore the markets to me are stronger than people expect them to. Even me, stronger than I expected them to be. It bodes well, which means that this week, I think there's a really good chance that the correction is going to be a shallow one. But if it's not a shallow one, I'm also not going to panic. Because to me, if it's a 50 fib correction, like a 50 fib retracement or a 618, that is still a good sign for buyers. We could keep going for longer periods of time. We can keep going up for longer periods of time if our corrections are slightly deeper. Or if they're very shallow, then we go parabolic and it becomes problematic. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that. Listen, trade sensibly. If you have any questions or comments or feedback, anything you really don't like that annoys you, put it in the comments section. Anything you do like that you'd like to see more of, put it in the comments section and I will get to it. Thank you very much. Have a great week.